What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Age of Quarantine. It is, man, what day of the week is it? I don't even know. Friday, March 12th. We're 1 week away from our 1 year anniversary, and we have a really special episode for next week that we're going to announce very soon. I am very excited for tonight's guest. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of New York hardcore and the hardcore punk lifestyle and genre in general. St. Vitus as a club caters to so many different types of music, but it was very inspired by CBGBs and Coney Island High and Wetlands and all those people that came from that world. My guest Drew Stone came from that world. He's been around forever. I like to call him a hardcore historian. Well, my friend Andrew Castle from Perfect Roles, who made the flyer, coined that term. But he is a hardcore historian. He made a film, the New York Hardcore Chronicles, which he's turned into a live series at the legendary A7, where they had bands playing before the pandemic. A lot of legendary bands like Beyond and Leeway and geez, the list goes on. I mean, Urban Waste played. I know that he's done so many of these, but he also turned it into a web series during the pandemic. He's had some really great episodes. They've been really fun to watch. And on top of that, he is also in Antidote NYHC. And what else is he doing? He did a film called Who the Fuck Is That Guy? A film about Michael Ilago, who was a legendary A&R that signed to Metallica at Elektra back in the day. And he's also directed a bunch of music videos for Madball, for Onyx. And so this has been such a wonderful year of being able to speak to some of our heroes, some people that have played at the club. And honestly, like, we really appreciate your support. If you want to further support the club, there's a ton of stuff that you can order from the St. Vitus crew online in our store. And there's a lot of new... Hey, Drew Stone, there he is.
Oh, hey.
What's going on, man? How are you?
You know, it's past my fucking bedtime, bro.
I feel you, man. I feel you. I love,
Hold
what
on,
I love about this, by the way, is that you're in the guest chair instead of hosting tonight. How does it feel?
It's good. Hold on, let me see. Is that not working? I got to be this way, right?
You got to be like that. Yeah, now we can see you. You're all good like that.
Okay, hold on. Let me get my shit straight here. Can I curse on your show?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, man. This is the internet. No one gives a shit.
You know what? Hold on. I want to get another light. Hold on.
Yeah, you got it, man. You got it. Like I said, everybody, if you want to support St. Vitus Bar, there's a ton of new merch and stuff on the site, and we got more coming. You could even order records on there. St. Vitus has a little record store online where you guys can order stuff. So the support goes a long way, and hopefully we'll be seeing live music come back sooner than later. But yeah, check the shit out. There he is.
Do I look all right?
You look good. You want to put the camera down a little bit. There you are. I can see your face a little
bit. If I look good, you look good.
That's right. That's right. Drew, man. I don't know.
What's going on, bro?
I'm chilling, man. You know, I was just talking about how, I'm sure you can relate to this, not being at shows, not playing shows this entire year has been brutal. So this is a great way to connect with people. You know, there are people watching. We get to talk to people we respect and look up to. So, you know, it's been cool. You've been doing the same thing on your show too.
Well, yeah, I'm fortunate. The show that I launched is really it's caught a worldwide audience, and it's really turned into something great. And that really wasn't part of my plan, you know. I mean, it was. I'm a filmmaker by nature, and it's just as soon as I was locked down, what happened to me was somebody asked me to come on their show, and I saw like what their show was, and it was on a platform called StreamYard, and I sort of checked it out, and I thought maybe I should do it like a hardcore thing, because I spent like you said in your intro, I've sort of been in this hardcore thing for a couple of years, and between being in bands and I had a whole career as doing music videos. I had a whole career being in bands and tour managing, and it just I launched it, and I was very fortunate with it.
Absolutely. You have thousands of people that are always watching. It's great. I love it. You've had so many guests from Igor Cavalera to Vinny Stigma to John Joseph, and a lot of twists and turns. Derek Green, that was a real fun one.
Yeah.
And I think it's great what you're doing, because honestly, I feel like you're kind of an anchor. We called you a hardcore historian on the flyer because you're kind of, I think archiving is something that is so important and for scenes, and Discord Records does a great job of that. You know, that's what they're all about, and New York really needed somebody, and you filled that gap for the scene. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, it started out as, of course, you know, I'm a music fan, right? And you know, like growing up, and I started the New York Hardcore Chronicles Facebook page, and that just really got a lot of people on it, and I just started collecting stuff, and then I made the film. And like, you know, I'm a documentary filmmaker, and it's really like, in a way, I'm like a music archaeologist, you know? It's like, go digging to the next level and the next level and the next level, and, you know, collecting all this stuff. And, you know, like when I'm on plane flights and, you know, I got, you know, I'll like go into the files and you know, categorize everything and just, you know, make it accessible and figure stuff out. And, you know, and also, you know, just I have a real passion for like the flyers and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and sort of figuring out all that stuff. And I have a book coming out probably later this summer that really centers around the flyers from 1980 to 1989. And it's interesting because, like, you know, we take a flyer and then it's like an oral history, but, you know, here's the flyer. And then we hear from one voice, hey, I made that flyer. That's my artwork. And then another voice, hey, I played in that, you know, I remember that show. I played in that band. And then another voice of, yo, I was at that show. You know, there was mad beef at that show, So it's sort of like the flyer is like the portal. And you have different people, like a guy who played, you know, a gal that was taking, you know, different perspectives. And what I've really tried to do with this is kind of put the spotlight on a lot of the people that, you know, we've all heard from the usual suspects again and again. So what I'm trying to do with this is let's hear from some of the other people, you know.
100%. Yeah, no, I love that. You know, speaking of people who've done that, a guest and a mutual friend, Nancy Burrill, who you had on your show, did a great job of that with her book. What is that book? Everyone should check it.
I'm not holding your coat.
That's right. That's right. Well,
yeah.
As you know from doing these shows, you do it a little bit longer than me. 1 hour goes by really quick. So I'm going to kind of jump into a little topics here and there and kind of guide us, because I want to know a little bit about this. Let's start here before we get into your history. Before the pandemic happened, you had a ton of things happening at A7, which is the New York Hardcore Chronicles series, where you were having legendary bands and up-and-coming bands playing. My band Total Meltdown was supposed to play with Killing Time, and then the whole pandemic happened.
That was going to be a great show too, man.
It was, man. It was. I'm going to be very complimentary too, because not to totally kiss your ass, but what I love about what you're doing, and I've talked about it with a lot of people, is that you're not only doing something in a historical venue and place and bringing the older bands back, right? Like Urban Waste and you know, Beyond and Eddie Leeway who played there, but you're also putting a spotlight on younger bands and up and comers. And there's young kids coming out that are in their 20s. It's really cool to see that.
Well, this is what happened with that, honestly, is that, you know, as a teenager growing up in New York City, I used to go to the A7 in the early 80s when I was singing for the High and the Mighty. And of course, that's where I met, you know, Roger and Vinny from Agnostic Front, and Jimmy G from Murphy's Law, and Ray Bees from Warzone was the doorman, and Doug Holland from Kraut was the bartender. And A7 back then, you know, on Avenue A, it was an after hours club. Basically, they paid the cops off. The place opened at midnight, and you know, there were times where, you know, the show would end at like with the sun coming up, you know. And
Right.
I recently, not recently now, it's about 2 years, more than 2 years ago, right? I directed a music video, and we shot it in the venue, in the room there and in the back room, and for a band called The Take, which is
That's Will Shepler from Madball and Agnostic
Will
Front.
Shepler from Madball and Agnostic Front, and Scott Roberts, who was in Biohazard and the Spud Monsters.
Yeah.
So I did this video there, and after and all their friends are there, and they did a little performance. And I had a fun kind of a Minor Threat cover band with Mike DeJean from Queens, and speaking of leeway, Jimmy X was playing bass, and Goat, who was
what a great drummer he is, right.
from the Misfits.
From the Misfits and Murphy's Law,
So we played the room just for fun, and then I started getting calls. Yo, how can we play that? Yo, what's up with the room? So I thought, let's give it a spin. I talked to Jesse Mallon, who owns the place, and we decided, in retrospect now, was really the key move. The shows are going to be free, free shows, and a lot of people started coming. And if it's free, it's for me. And also another thing that really I balanced out the bill between like young kids and old timers. And so there was a real, and I'd have like, on any given bill, I'd have some young kids open the show, a straight hardcore band, a punk band, an oi drinking band. And I really tried to mix it up. And the shows were extremely successful. And then, I think we did 14 shows, and then the COVID thing hit. But one thing we do have coming out April 27th is the A7 Back to the New York Hardcore Roots New York Hardcore compilation that Pitchfork New York Hardcore is putting out. It's got 17 bands on it. So we managed to sort of capture that spirit. It's all original music, and that's coming out. So the A7 is just a legendary room. There's a plaque there that pays homage, to the bands that played that room. Fortunately, I'm on the plaque twice in two bands I played in, the High and Mighty and Antidote. Yeah, and we call it the Magic Room. It's just the Magic Room, and also I think it's just a very welcome. It's just a welcome vibe, and it's really served us well.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited for the possibility of that coming back. Knock on wood. That we'll start to see things sort of pop up in the future with the with the vaccines and all that. So fingers crossed. So you mentioned the compilations coming out. There's 17 bands on it, and Generation Records is involved with that as well. You want to mention some of the bands that are going to be on there?
Yeah, sure. Well, so Pitchfork New York Hardcore is putting it out, and it's 17 bands, and Generation Records is involved because they're doing like a limited edition run on Marble, 100 copies. Very and cool. Cortex in Berlin, Germany is doing a gold run of 100 copies. So some of the bands on it is like Crazy Eddie, The Car Bomb Parade, Kings Never Die, Silence Equals Death. Some of the young kids like Reaching Out, Antidote NYHC is on it. We've rebranded ourselves, and Tom Capone from Beyond.
That's a buddy of mine too. I played in Beyond with him briefly. Yeah.
Yeah, so Tom Capone is playing guitar in Antidote NYHC. We've sort of rebranded ourselves. We've recorded a whole bunch of stuff that's coming out. This is the first of it. We wish everybody, from the Antidote in the past, all the best. Cool. We're moving forward and we're doing this. Who else is on there? The Craze, Serial Poets.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's 17 friggin' bands on the thing,
That's awesome.
And it's like the packaging. It's like a deluxe gatefold package, and there's going to be a fanzine that's inserted into it. Busky Design is doing it. It's really, really a nice package.
Awesome. Hey, what's up, Jeremy from Super Touch? Jeremy, he writes for No Echo, and he says that he bases his interview style after yours for No Echo. So the shout out to you, Drew. You're a great interviewer. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You met all of your New York hardcore fam back in the A7 days. Some of the folks that you met, but tell me, you're originally from New York, right? And then
Yep.
can you kind of just like sum up your early days in terms of like where you grew up, where you're from, and how it shaped you in terms of your like musical and professional journey into who you
Sure,
became?
sure.
Yeah.
I'll try to give you the condensed, brief version. I'm born and raised in New York City in the five boroughs. I grew up in Queens, Manhattan, and in the Spite and Dival section of the Bronx. I went to Kennedy High School in the Bronx. But I went to growing up in New York in pretty much the late '70s. I consider myself part of like the blank generation. I was too old. I was too old for like the Woodstock thing, and too sort of no, I was too young for the Woodstock thing, and like too old for the MTV. I'm part of this generation that's sort of in a weird spot, you know.
Right.
And growing up in New York, I was into like rock stuff, the usual. We were into Led Zeppelin and all that stuff, and it was interesting. I mentioned this before. Where I grew up in the Bronx, Southern rock was really big,
That's so
and
funny. Is this
and I'm
70s,
talking
right?
about right, and I'm talking about I grew up in an area that was really multi-ethnic. So I'm
Okay.
talking like I'm hanging out with black kids and Puerto Rican kids, and Southern rock was huge
What
where I
about like
lived.
Leonard Skinner?
Yo, we loved the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner and Charlie Daniels, and like we would hang out in UN Park smoking weed and drinking and listening to like Southern rock. We loved Southern rock. And then um, I went to college in Boston, Emerson College, to study acting. I come from a
You
film.
were very involved with the Boston scene. Yeah.
I come from a filmmaking family. My dad was a film director. So I came up like in a film making family. My uncle's a film editor. And as a teenager, I acted in plays and in camp, and I did some modeling as a teenager. And so I went to Emerson to study acting. And as soon as I got there, in the cafeteria, I saw this kid with his head shaved,
Okay.
which was intriguing to me because the only people that shaved their heads back then in 1981 were like Marines and psychopaths.
Okay.
Like it's not like it is now. Like you see someone with their head shaved back then, they were looking for trouble,
It's a statement. It's a statement.
It really was. Nobody was shaving their heads in 1981.
Okay.
So I started interacting with this cat, and what are you about? What is this? And he told me he was into hardcore, and I was like, hardcore? Like, what do you mean, like Joan Jett, like the B-52s, Blondie? I literally didn't have a reference point. And he said, no, like Black Flag. I said, Black Flag? What do you mean, like the bug spray? Like I had no fucking idea what he was talking about. And what he said was, hey, look, there's a show coming up this weekend. Why don't you come with me? We'll go to the show. So cool. So that weekend, a couple of days later, me and him, got on our skateboards and went to the show. It was in a place called the Media Workshop. Up a couple floors. It was like a raw space. And I went to the show, and it turned out it was a hardcore show, and a band called SSD Control was playing.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
it was their third show. There was like 15, 20 kids there, and they played, and immediately I felt connected to it. It was kids my age, and because before that, the music that I was into, there was such a separation between the audience and the stage. I mean, I was into like the Rolling Stones and like,
Right. You gotta buy tickets, the security guards, there's a barrier, all that.
there was no connection. Those dudes were rock stars.
Right.
So here comes this thing where it's like, it's young kids, it's kids my age. And as soon as, and like I jumped right in, there was like 50, there was like 20 kids there, but,
Sure.
but I got it immediately. There was some kids, thrashing about and a little slam dancing. And this was the real early days of this shit, It wasn't even called hardcore yet, And I kind of jumped in and it was fun. And so afterwards, when they finished, the guitar player took his guitar off and they approached me and they were like, who are you? And like they want, like, and not in a threatening way. It was a very organic sort of community and culture way. Like, hey, wow, a new face. Who are you? And
Sure.
instantly I connected with these guys, and I ended up falling in with them. And I was part of the original Boston Skinhead crew, the Boston crew. And I'm thanked on the first SSD Control record. And, SSD Control, Gangrene, Jerry's Kids, the FUs. I started a band called the Mighty COs, and
Right.
you know, that set my sort of musical journey, you know, into motion. And I ended up, you know, fuck school, you know.
So interesting.
And you know, let me say, to be honest with you, I felt that it was something special. Like I really felt like it was a special time. So I remember being very cognizant of that, and just wanting to embrace it, you know, fully. And which sort of meant like I couldn't sit really in a classroom and learn shit. You know, I was out running around with my hardcore friends, you know, carrying on, you know. So
did you end up finishing out your scholastics at that point, or?
Excuse me?
Did you end up finishing school at that
No.
point? Okay, so
No.
you. It's so interesting to me because you're from the old days of New York, but it was really, it sounds like Boston where you started your life in hardcore, obviously.
Yeah.
I never realized that until now. And then you ended up with the Mighty COs. At what point did you go back to New York and and start getting involved with the scene over there, meeting Roger and Vinny and all that?
Well, when we were up in Boston, SSD Control would come down to New York to play a lot. They would play the A7. They played a lot of infamous shows in New York. They played Gildersleeves. They played the Bad Brains. You know, we came down. They played the Bad Brains retirement shows in 1982.
CBGB's, that infamous footage, yeah.
That infamous CBGB's Bad Brains show that they made the video of. SSD Control opened up for that show.
Yes.
And what we would do is, I had a van up in Boston. Al from D-Control had a van. You know, we'd fill both vans up with fucking Punks and Skins, and we'd go to DC, we'd go to Philly, you know, we'd go to New York, and we would represent. You know, you'd represent your city. And
right.
So coming down, and I know a lot's been said about this Boston-New York rivalry, but early on it didn't exist. We would go down. That's where I met Jimmy. That's where I met Roger. That's where I met Vinny. And then what happened was, I stopped going to school, and eventually, like, I kind of crapped out, and I had to do something with myself and earn a living. So I came back to New York to kind of work in the film business, because for me, job always meant something in the film business, right? And at a young age, I worked in a movie equipment rental house, you know, and also I was a freelance production assistant, a PA. And for those that might not, PA is like lowest.
Oh, yeah.
For those that may not know, it's like the lowest on the ladder. And when I was in my early 20s, I was a PA. And when you're part of that PA circuit back then, you kind of go from gig to gig, you know. And I was doing that. And I came back to New York, and I started the High and the Mighty. And we were an A7 band. We played A7 all the time. And one of the bands we played with a lot was with Antidote.
Right.
And I got close with those guys, and at the time, Antidote was Arthur Googie that left the Misfits. Yep, I mean, the infamous Arthur Googie who plays on Walk Among Us, and they just put out the Thou Shalt Not Kill single, and
which, by the way, is so ridiculously underrated. It should be considered part of the holy grail with Age of Quarrel and fucking Victim in Pain. It really.
Well,
should.
it is in a lot of ways. No,
I'm not gonna start anything here, but I think it's better than in ways to. I love.
It was pretty. It was pretty groundbreaking, and I loved it. Antidote was my favorite band, and then
so good. Yeah.
I loved it, and I was hanging out with Nunzio, who the guitar player in Antidote, and we had a show together in DC. Antidote was playing, and the High and the Mighty were playing, and we got in my van, and we went down and played. And on the way back, you know, they were fighting with this singer. They had a huge blowout with this singer. They got back to New York. He was out of the band, and I ended up trying out for the band, and I ended up being the singer for Antidote. And what
year was that?
1984.
It's really early on. Amazing. And then so that you kind of answered a lot of my questions, and I appreciate that.
But you know what? To answer a couple more, we're talking about what I was doing as far as for a job, right? I was working. So another job I had was I worked on a film stage. I was a stage manager on a film stage, and my boss said to me, "Hey, if you rent any of the equipment outside the building, I'll split it with you. So I started doing these little gigs here and there, you know, putting you know, film equipment, lights and grip equipment in my van, and doing these outside, you know, doing, my brother will come to town and need a couple things. So I sort of cobbled together enough money to incorporate. I created Stone Films NYC, and then did a couple more jobs. And right at that time, see, what was happening was, this was during the golden age of music videos. So people were like, "Hey, Drew, you know about this music video shit. You know, can you do a video for us?" So I started doing videos, you know, for people. But Paris Mayhew from the Cro-Mags, who's going to school, you know, being a cameraman and doing stuff, he approached me and said, "Hey, this band is asking me to do a video for them. Do you want to produce it?" Well, that band turned out to be Biohazard, and ended up producing it. We did the Punishment video.
Punishment, that's a classic.
Yeah, which was, you know, them coming over the Brooklyn Bridge, and we did that, and it blew up. It was on Headbangers Ball 14 weeks in a row.
Best video they ever had. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Best video they ever had. Yeah.
I like the one we did after that, Shades of Grey. That one was cool too.
Great. I mean, they're all great, but that video is just always.
It was groundbreaking. And then this is the real kind of key here. The watershed moment is, so Biohazard was managed by Rush Management, which was like Russell Simmons and Scott Koenig. Rush Management also had the rap group Onyx.
Yes.
And Onyx had the song Slam.
Right.
And they had the perspective. They said, "Yo, let's get the Rock and Roll White Boys to do our video." So we did the Slam video, and that's my double platinum Slam record right there.
I always see that when you do your show. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, what else is on? Wait, hold on. There's a couple more on my wall from that era. Okay, so that one over there, that's Run DMC that we did. Wow. And then up top, that's Typo Negative Black #1.
That's amazing. I just thought it's so cool to connect the dots, because your videos were around when I was getting into a lot of this stuff. They were current and new and on MTV. And so to later on find out that you were the guy that was behind that, and Paris as well on some of those, is so cool. I love that connection from hardcore to some non-hardcore stuff that you may not realize, specifically the hip hop stuff. The other stuff makes more sense.
We did a lot of work together.
You did a great job of really kind of painting a picture of how your film life and your music life really coexisted at the same time. So thank you for that, because I feel like it sets us up even easier to kind of get into like the more specific stuff that I wanted to talk about. So going back to Antidote, you showed up in the band in '84, as you mentioned, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, your first record with them was it in '89, or am I skipping one?
No, I think you're right. What was the name of it?
Return to Burn.
The infamous.
Right.
The infamous Return to Burn.
With the band, that's a kind of, I'm 40, so like I'm like kind of at that little cusp. I remember, like that was the first year I went to my first show. And so like it was like kind of on the cusp. I remember, for those of people watching that were not around back then, that's an interesting time for music, because you're now way past crossover is already kind of like very normal at that point, and now we're getting into grunge and glam metal. And you know what's funny to me, you said controversial. When I listen to that record, you know, fashion is always going to change, right? And I'm not, and that's, everyone looks different eras musically. A lot of those songs to me are still hardcore songs. If you didn't watch it,
it's crazy, man. You know, in perspective, you know, that record was vilified when it came out. A lot of people just freaked out on it, because, you know, a lot of people, you know, Antidote, Thou Shalt Not Kill. I joined the band. As soon as I joined the band, you know, when you're 21 years old, you know, other things were in the air, and we were influenced by other things, and we were excited about other things.
Everybody was. I mean, listen to Bad Brains at that time. Everybody was different.
And you know what? You know what the band was? It really, really, I could speak for myself, but I can speak for the band, but I could really speak for myself. The band that really, really influenced us around then was Guns N' Roses.
They're one of my favorite bands of all time, and I'd imagine that you were at the Ritz for that show.
Yeah, and I'm talking the early stuff, like when Guns N' Roses was just. I mean, it's now we look back, it was like this monster record, and it's played out. But when they were starting to break, they were fucking awesome. They were an exciting band. They were doing it their own way. They were taking no prisoners. And Duff was in the band who came from a hardcore band. And we were like, yo, we were like, yo, these are our dudes, man, you know? And we were bored with the hardcore thing. You're 21 years old. It's like, and being from, I'm a first generation hardcore guy. Yeah. It's like, yo, it's like new kids are coming in. It was like kind of creepy at that point, you know. Youth of Today was coming. The new bands were coming in. It's like, yo, like I didn't feel like it's like I'm hanging out with a bunch of kids.
Everything makes sense in the as you know, I don't need to tell you, like in the evolution of everything, because it's still happening today. I mean, I love that. I was listening to the Axe to Grind podcast today, and Walter was the guest, and they were talking about how hardcore is in a really interesting, cool place right now, because the scene is huge. There's a lot of creativity, but it's also kids that are going back to the 80s style and the crossover style. It's just a little bit of everything. But not to get off topic here, but I could only imagine that you were taking heat at that point, you know, the way that it would look. But
also we had long, you know, we grew I had long hair. We grew our hair long. It was like, you know, people were kind of freaked out by it, you know, and that's how it goes, you know.
Well, you did a bunch of records with Antidote, and then there was a nice return to the all great records, and then 2012 came around, and you put out you know, a record that really was a return to form, No Peace in Our Time, and
that record ripped.
That's an incredible record.
That record ripped.
Yeah. During that,
things go full circle. Things went full circle for us. You know what I mean? Like we didn't play for like 15 years, you know. And then when we were asked to play this big reunion thing, we kind of came back, you know, sort of to celebrate the hardcore shit. So we came back, you know, and started and there was this is interesting, because in 2008 we were asked to play this A7 reunion at the Knitting Factory. And it was all the old bands that used to play at A7.
Was that with Absolution?
I don't know if they were on the bill. It was like a lot of the OGs, like The Abused and Reagan Youth and all the first wave. I'm not sure if Absolution was on that bill. But it was at the Knitting Factory, all 3 floors of the Knitting Factory, like everybody, you know, Urban Waste, Major Conflict, like everybody was on this thing. And we were sort of really hesitant about doing it. I was like, yeah. And like, we went, and when we got on stage, the place was filled to the rafters. Everyone knew every word. And we were like, oh shit. And then we decided, you know what, that was cool. I was like, where are all these kids coming from? I found out they hang out at a place called ABC No Rio.
Yeah, right.
So I called ABC No Rio, and they were like, wait a second, Antidote, you want to play here? And I'm like, yeah, and I want it to be free. And they were like, no, you can't do that. We can't. You have to charge people. So we showed up. The line was around the block. They let in as many people as they could legally. You know, we played, and then it kept being like, okay, let's do one more. And then finally we got like, not finally, but like we got offered a record deal, and then we were like, all right, fuck it, we're back.
That was Bridge 9, right?
Bridge 9, yeah.
Yeah, Bridge 9. It's a great label, and they've gone on. I remember when they first started, and they've really gone a far way.
Chris Ren.
Yeah, Chris Ren, shout out. So you're living your life kind of between the directing pretty successful videos. You end up even doing, like you said, Typo Negative, and we skipped a big one, which was Madball, Pride, which is a classic video.
Well, what happened was the timeline is me and Paris had a nice run together. We did a bunch of great shit. Me and Paris split. He went and started the Chromax thing again. You know, we split apart, and then I continued directing and and producing stuff. And I ended up doing this run. I was like the king of hardcore videos for me. I did Agnostic Front Gotta Go.
Yes.
I did the two Madball videos, you know, Fury of 5, Sub-Zero, you know, blah, 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 on and on. So then I went on this run doing music videos for a couple of years and doing just tons of stuff. And then, you know, listen, my career's is like come in waves. It's like I've had a career doing music videos. I've had a career doing extreme sports films. I've had a career doing documentary films, you know?
Yeah. So do you, because I mean, I'm familiar with, obviously, I want to talk about your films, not just New York Hardcore Chronicles, but also Who the Fuck Is That Guy? A film about Michael Ilago, the legendary A&R, who was with Elektra and a couple other labels who did, you know, signed Metallica. You're also getting hired to do other people's films as well, so you're keeping busy, real busy. You want to let's jump in.
I'm an independent filmmaker, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's a hustle. Let's talk about. I told you this goes by quick. Can you believe we've been on here for 40 minutes? So I want to. Yeah, it's crazy. So I want to.
What do we got? What do we got? We got 20 minutes left.
I know. Well, I want to talk about.
Well, you better pick and choose.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, because I want to talk about the films, and then I want to go back to Antidote NYHC. So let's start with the film Who the Fuck Is That Guy? A film about Michael Ilago. That is available. It's been available on. Is it Netflix or?
Yeah, it actually right now. It has completed its 3-year run on Netflix and everything, and it's been taken down off all the platforms. And even as we speak, I was on a call today about redistributing the film, making a new deal with the new distributor. We actually got the film back, which is very rare. The distributor sort of ran up on the rocks, went bankrupt, but we got our property back. And it almost couldn't have worked out any better. It did 3 years on Netflix. Just as it came off Netflix, they fell apart. We got the property back. We're in negotiations again. We're talking about putting an epilogue on it, adding on a couple more minutes, and there being like a re-release. But the Ilago film was very successful around the world. It's a great story about a gay Hispanic, you know, kid who grew up in a Hasidic neighborhood in Brooklyn, who went on to change the face of the music business, and pretty much like the crown, the jewel in his crown. Fucking kid at 21 years old, A&R, first band he signed was Metallica.
And after seeing him at Roseland, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were on his radar screen before that, but that's when he went and sort of, you know. And I can't
recommend it anymore to everybody out there, and I'm glad to hear
it's a good film.
It's going to be available. I got a comment from a guy named Uncle Vinny. Drew's used to being in control of the interviews. I was looking forward to interviewing you because it's got to be nice to be on the other end instead.
Although I got to say, I'm fucking sick I'm sick of talking about myself. But this is okay. We're getting into this is good for me because we're talking about some different stuff, you know. So that's cool.
Definitely, man. And so that's going to be eventually available again for everybody.
It's going to be re-released again, and you know we're thinking about what to do with the epilogue. We might, you know, who knows? We might, you know, talk to Lars again or whatever. But that film. Listen, I've done a bunch of films. And I could say that's a very good film. And the reason, what I think the major part of the reason that the Ilago film is what I consider a good film is it really plays itself out. It's got like the 4 like acts, you know, it plays itself out in 4 acts. You know, there's the first stage, the sort of, you know, the coming out, the growth, you know, the second stage, the glory, the third stage, the crash and burn. And then the fourth act is resurrection. It really plays itself out in 4 acts, which is like, you know, classic. And it also has a lot of star power, and that helps.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's the New York Hardcore Chronicles film, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, can you get that on iTunes or Apple, or where are the platforms that people?
Yeah, the New York Hardcore Chronicles film right now is on Amazon Prime. It's on all the platforms. That's a very good film too. very proud of it. You know, it's cool. It's on Amazon Prime. And my other film, before that, I did XXX All Ages XXX, the Boston hardcore film. That's on Amazon Prime.
Yo, I gotta watch that still, Drew. I haven't seen that yet. I gotta check
it's
that
okay.
out.
It's okay. I feel like I sort of cringe when I see it a little bit because it was the first one that I did, and there was a little bit of a learning curve there. But there's some really great moments in it, you know. So,
I'm really glad that you reminded us of that, though, because that's gonna be next on my radar. I gotta check that out.
You'll enjoy it. Listen, you're a music historian. You'll love the film. It's a good film.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then you have a sequel, or I don't know if we should call it a sequel, but it's like the New York Hardcore Chronicles 1.5. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's on Amazon. It's not Amazon Prime, but it's Amazon. You know, it's like costs a couple bucks or whatever.
Oh, it's already out there. Okay, I got to check that out.
It's been out for years. It's on Amazon. It's basically like a lot of the footage that wasn't used in the New York Hardcore Chronicles film, and it's sort of like an alternate universe like version of it. You know, it's like a lot of the same subject matters. It's like a lot of the same subjects, but with like footage that's not in the original film.
It's so hard, but you do a good job of putting that out there because you always have the Q&As that you're always posting regularly with all the the characters out there, and I love those. I love when there's a new one out there. I wanted to also just mention that my personal favorite part of the New York Hardcore Chronicles film is when you get Todd Youth, rest in peace, and Vinny and Roger. That's a magical moment because Todd's not with us. Roger doesn't live here anymore, and they're in A7. That is such and then like the way that you showed the footage of them back in the day to them now was fucking beautiful, man.
Let me say something about let me say something about the New York Hardcore Chronicles film. Is people ask me about, like, of all your films, which one do you love the most, or which one, or in a lot of ways, it's the New York Hardcore Chronicles film because I didn't have to answer to anybody. I didn't have to deal with anybody's fucking bullshit, and I just did it. It was totally, out of pocket, out of my, whatever I wanted to do. I didn't have to friggin' answer anybody. It was just my vision, and it just flowed. It was really organic. It was really enjoyable. I made a film with, people that I fucking, grew up with and I know and love, and it just really, that film really has a really good feel to it because, let's be frank, man, these films are like very difficult and stressful, and making a film is not easy, man. And like, making a film, like doing Michael Ilago's story, was not easy. There's like a lot of really stressful moments,
Right.
Dealing with Metallica and Cyndi Lauper and Johnny Rotten is not a walk in the park,
I can only imagine. And also like the licensing and the music, all that shit.
Big headache, man. Big headache. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it was a nightmare, but it has, it was really a journey, and it was stressful. Whereas like the New York Hardcore Chronicles film, I started New York Hardcore Chronicles film because the Ilago film was taking so long and so freaking stressful. I started to do the New York Hardcore Chronicles film on the side, and it ended up getting done and coming out before the Ilago film. So
yeah.
Go for it.
Well, so I love that you have decided to. I mean, that's like you said, it's stressful, it's sacrifices, but you put yourself out there to make sure that New York Hardcore has a place where people can watch this stuff and fucking, I want to ask you about your favorite interviews in a little bit from like just like your general Q&As that you've done because I know what mine are, but really quick, Antidote NYHC. We don't need to get into like the drama. I know you kind of mentioned that like you're moving forward and you have a great lineup. But your band and my band took turns opening up for Mr. Bungle at Brooklyn Steel. I did night one with Spotlights, and then Antidote NYHC did night two. That was fucking. I mean, we both did it, so I know it was awesome. But
yeah, it was great.
You want to just talk about that briefly? How that came together, what that was like, and then let us know what's coming up for Antidote NYHC.
Yeah, I mean, the Antidote, Mr. Vogel Thing, Scott Ian, who's an old friend, he dropped me a line, and Scott Ian is playing in Bungle with Dave Lombardo, and what's his name, Mike Patton, of course, sings, yeah. And Scott reached out to me. They wanted a New York hardcore band on the bill, and sure, at that point,
yeah, right? Come on.
At that point, we weren't playing. We weren't playing that much. We had a member that's got a couple of issues, so it was difficult for us to play. He couldn't play with us. Tom Capone stepped in, and it turned out to be one of the best shows we ever played. And we just, we enjoy playing together, and we decided, hey, you know what? Let's move it forward, and let's rebrand ourselves a little bit, and like whatever. The original members or whatever they want to do, God bless them.
Right.
God bless you. God bless you all, my son. This is what we're doing. And right. Tom Capone's playing guitar with us, and
Tom Capone's one of the best guitar players in New York hardcore, hands down, man. The guy's done everything. And
he's our boy, and we love playing with him. There's like a real chemistry in the band again. And for years there was no chemistry. We were like a three-legged dog.
I love that guy.
Man, we like playing with them. So we have a track on the A7 compilation coming out. We have a track on this Coney Island compilation. Coney Island is like the CBGBs of Leipzig, Germany. It's a club in Germany, and I think Youth of Today's on the comp, Cockspar, Sick of It All.
Live tracks or new tracks?
Excuse me?
New tracks or live tracks?
I think it's like there's I think live B-side.
Got it.
You
guys are doing a new track.
We have a new track. We went and recorded, and then we have a 7-inch coming out this summer on Worldwide Unity Records out of Germany.
Great.
And yeah, so we're listen. I think part of what we're doing here is looking at what we learned from like the Cro-Mags issues that they had when kind of John went and did his own thing, but didn't come up with any new music. That was the big knock, we definitely didn't want to, so we just wrote a bunch of new music and recorded a bunch of new music. That's not going to be a knock on us. We're coming out of the gate with a bunch of new music, and
right.
That's the best way to do it. And that's where it's at for us,
I feel you, man. I feel you, and that's a strong lineup. Like Sid the Kid, what's up, man? Tom shreds. He certainly does. So
where are you seeing this stuff? Where's this chat room? I don't see this chat room. Where is that?
You don't see the comments? There's been people commenting the whole time. What's up, Chucky Boogie Brown?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, wow, all my people, man.
Yeah.
What's up, you guys? Chucky Brown, yo, Dom. Oh, all my people from my show, man.
Yeah, there have been people talking this whole time, man. We got an audience out there.
All right, man. Hey, everybody. Hey, what's up, my people?
Oh, there they are. So now you see there's people watching. Now you see them. So
yeah, I see them now. I didn't want to touch this. Oh, I see Steven Messina. What's up? What's up, everybody? What's up, Sid?
Watching, man.
Cool.
And for everybody watching that tuned in too late, this is going to be on the St. Vitus Instagram channel, along with all the other episodes, and on my YouTube channel. And we got about 10 minutes left, and I want to just touch upon a few more things here before we wrap it up. But my favorite New York Hardcore Chronicles interviews, and I know this is going to be a controversial one. I don't like to take sides on stuff, but I thought it was really cool that you got Harley on there, because he is obviously a huge part of being in the Stimulators. You did a great interview with him. That was I'm going to give you my top 3. I liked that one. Obviously, I liked Stigma, and I'm going to have to give a shout out to Gavin Van Vlack, who is my mentor. Guy helped get me sober, and he's my physical trainer. What were your top 3 favorite New York Hardcore Chronicles Q&As that you got to do?
They're all my children. I love them all. Listen, the Harley thing. Harley is an incredibly talented musician, and he's great in the film. And it was great doing 10 questions with him. And I'd love to get him on my show one of these days. But my show is not about politics, and my show is, not about, attacking other people. So, that might be a little bit tough. I've done so many interviews through the years with so many people. As far as the hardcore thing goes, it's hard to say. And even but I will say this also. It strays off that. Probably the interview that resonated the most with me is John Lydon from the Sex Pistols, because all these other guys are my peers. I grew up with Roger and those guys. Even the Metallica guys.
Because you knew them when they were underground.
Exactly. But sitting down to interview John Lydon,
you were probably a little nervous, I would imagine.
That dude changed the face of music on the planet Earth.
I mean, yeah, come on now. Yeah. So you got John Lydon.
That was stressful.
John Lydon, would you say was your number one?
The John Lydon interview really, I look back at that was really a big moment for me personally. Yeah, that was like, this is a guy that like really, affected my life. Yeah. He wasn't a peer of mine. He was, so that was big. And as far as, the hardcore stuff, all these guys, I love all these guys. And listen, just off the top of my head, I mean, who I thought was really, I thought John Purcell. I thought Purcell was a fantastic interview. He's a very knowledgeable man. And he has a deep love for New York hardcore.
And Boston hardcore too, yeah.
When I did the New York Hardcore Chronicles film, I wasn't as versed as I am now. I didn't really know that much about Youth of Today and those kind of bands. Judge, I didn't really know.
Right,
I knew
at that point you were doing the rock stuff with.
Right, and like sure, I knew the Judge. I knew the Judge cover, and I heard, I've seen the cover Bringing It Down, and New York Crew, and Youth of Today. But those guys are younger than me, so it wasn't until I did the film and I researched it that I really, really got into it. Now, of course, I know all their music and I know all the guys.
You probably knew Mike Judge from the A7 days because I know he was around back then just as a guy doing like
a little bit. The only person, I'll tell you what, the one person that I interviewed in the New York Hardcore Chronicles film that I've never had any connection with was Walter Schreifels.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And that was the one time that I met him. I interviewed him. I totally connected with him. We're friends now, but that was the one guy that, for some reason, we never crossed paths.
Which is so wild considering all the bands he was in. Shout out from True Blue Podcast saying that his favorites were Keith from Cause for Alarm and the last Danny Diablo one that you did.
Okay, so he's talking about my show, the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. He's talking about
that, not the Q&As.
Right, but absolutely. Right. The thing about my show is, I get, and Mike Judge. The Mike Judge show that I did was deep, man.
That was great. I watched that. That was great.
Motherfucker made me cry.
Yeah, because he's got a story, man. There's a great documentary on Judge that Vice did that I love. So Drew,
yeah, Sammy did that, right?
Can I put you on a quick fire, like top three? I'm going to keep going.
Sure.
Top three New York hardcore albums.
Fuck. I'd say Victim in Pain, Age of Quarrel. You know what resonates for me is Born to Expire by Leeway.
Fuck yeah, man. I wasn't sure.
I like that a lot. Antidote, Thou Shalt Not Kill. I like the original Cause for Alarm 7-inch. But those really resonate for me.
Oh, I like that. Okay, and then top three Boston hardcore albums and.
SSD Control, Get It Away. SSD Control, The Kids Will Have Their Say. Jerry's Kids, Is This My World?
Who are your top three favorite hardcore vocalists in general?
Henry Rollins singing for SOA and early Black Flag, Game Changer. Mm-hmm. John Brannon singing for Negative Approach, Game Changer. And, having seen the early Bad Brains many, many times, seeing the Bad Brains in 1981 and 1982, and I know it's been said a lot, and it's awkward saying it for people that will never get a chance to see them, but it was it was almost like a religious. It was almost like a religious experience because they would do a hardcore song and a reggae song, and I've never seen anything like it. HR was it was unfathomable, like what he was doing as a front man. So
I mean, they're my favorite band of all time, and I didn't get to see that. I unfortunately I saw them in the '90s, which I'm not knocking them, but it was different.
You know who influenced me later on as a front man is, and this is from when I was touring. Well, of course, Biohazard influenced me later on because just living and touring with those guys. But Phil Anselmo, seeing him on stage and how, you know, he didn't move a lot, but you couldn't take your eyes off him. I learned a lot from Phil too.
Yeah, and he's just such a good singer, man. I love Phil too. I've met him a bunch of times through my job at Revolver, and he's a great guy. So I want to take this opportunity to kind of do some final shout outs and announcements, because I know you mentioned a few things already, but let's just let the people know some immediate stuff to keep a lookout for, whether it's upcoming episodes, cool guests, and things of that nature, or releases. Let's give it to them.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get it right here. Yeah. The New York Hardcore Chronicles live this Sunday, March 14th. The show streams on Stone Films NYC on YouTube and on the New York Hardcore Chronicles Facebook page. We got Mike Gitter on the show on Sunday. A week from Sunday is the return of Jimmy G from Murphy's Law. A couple days after that, on Wednesday, March 24th, is Johnny Waste from Urban Waste and Major Conflict. Sunday, March 28th, John Jesse from Nausea.
Ooh, oh, wow.
Good one.
That's sick.
I get a lot of the guys that don't do this kind of stuff. Sunday, April 4th, Easter Sunday is Al Boril from SSD Control. Yeah. And then a guy that's never done anything like this, Wednesday, April 7th is Billy Psycho. So that's the New York Hardcore Chronicles live pretty much every Wednesday and Sunday. Also, you know, check out my films on Amazon Prime. And, you know, I have a new film that's in production now, and hopefully it's going to be out in a couple months.
And you have a Patreon, so everyone can support you.
Oh, yeah, there's a Patreon page. You can, you know, also, like, my show is really sponsor and support driven. Like, you know, I come from the format of, you know, make it free and people will enjoy it, and it'll take care of itself. So the show is free. There's a Patreon page. Check it out, Drew Stone, you know, /Patreon, whatever it is. And it's your support is what makes this show happen. And I'm very fortunate and I'm very grateful that the show has found a worldwide audience. And speaking for myself and for Steven Messina, the Hardcore Shutterbug, and Rat Bones and Sid the Kid, we all really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. We are so stoked that you joined us on the St. Vitus channel, and we love your show and everything you do. So thank you so much, Drew. And honestly, man, I cannot wait for the A7 New York Hardcore Chronicles series to come back so that we can revisit the Killing Time gig. And I gotta say, rest in peace to Richie McLaughlin, because he was a friend and a great guy, and he is. It's still a shock that he. Absolutely.
I mean, we lost a lot of people in the past couple of years, and look, it's going to come back. New York is starting to come back now, and when it does, listen, you know, you guys are going to play, and you know, shit's going to pop off again.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the support.
You rule, brother. Stay safe out there. We'll see you on the New York Hardcore Chronicles.
Take care, man.
Take care, everybody.